Everybody, hope you're all having a good Saturday. BobbyFi with my guy Brandon Cruz. Unfortunately, we don't have Sheets today. We don't have Rody, but this is the same slate. The four gamer is the one that I won the million on last year, so I'm kind of excited and hoping for a miracle repeat. I don't think that you don't get many chances, so I'm hoping to have another chance. I've had some really good finishes lately. Just literally, I don't even know how I lost that one last week with the 5 extra points for the New England defense at the end, and then Keenan Allen getting an overturned big catch, and then 6 targets that he didn't catch. That was rough because I would have won the Wildcat for 200K, and then the millionaire the couple weeks before. So trying to turn it around. Hopefully, Brandon is my good luck charm. Brandon, we don't have you on camera, but how are you doing today? And talk a little bit about what you think of this slate. I'll talk a little 4 gamer. Brandon will talk a little bit more about the 2 gamer and the showdowns. But yes, any overall thoughts, and how are you doing today, man?
Doing good. Yeah, for those watching, I'm just playing the 2 gamers both today and tomorrow, but I haven't even looked at tomorrow, so a lot of my opinions will just be on the games today. Going back, this has been, I mean, maybe that means we're both having chances to take down tournaments and stuff, but I can't remember a more frustrating time in DFS, but both with your Keenan Allen stuff and then the showdown with the Steelers and Texans for myself with nobody having Kirk and
Oh,
stuff
right.
and all the big buy-ins, and then I still miss mid cash at the very end of the stupid defensive touchdowns. Like that was incredibly frustrating.
Well, I
But
was shocked on that one too because I had 25% Kirk in the flex and like 4% as captain, and then I also had 10% of the New England defense as captain, and yet somehow didn't have any of them together in the same places.
yeah.
So it was like one of those where I was like, I should be winning a fortune, but I'm not.
Yeah, no, for real. I felt like I was in that, especially I don't know. I haven't been that tilted in a long time, but just looking at the exposures that I had versus the rest of the field, like just a huge missed opportunity. Going back because I don't think I may have done a live show for one of these, maybe the wild card weekend on a Saturday. Either way, my strategy of having these 2 game slates and just playing 3 quarterbacks, like kind of Xing out the worst quarterback right off the bat, has put me in really good position to make runs deep in these contests, especially during the second game and stuff. Today should be no different. I actually really like these games today versus the ones tomorrow. I think you have a much higher upside or much higher chance of having higher scoring on the 2 games today,
Interesting.
and because of that, I really like today's slate.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I
interesting.
can't
I
wait
have
to
a
look
little
at that.
bit of. I still think that Bears Chicago is the most desirable game of the weekend for potential scoring. I don't care about the weather thing. It's not, I think it's being overstated at this point. It matters some, but anyway. But I'm interested in what you got today because we've got Sam Darnold, who's clearly banged up with this oblique. They say he hasn't thrown a football since Thursday. I don't know what the hell to do with this, to be honest with you, other than maybe lowering my exposure to Darnold. It's hard because San Francisco is by far the weakest defense left in the playoffs. There's not even anybody in the same. I mean, they're one of the weakest defenses in the NFL. So that's I guess one place to start. But before we do that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about 4 games, and I'm just going to sort of highlight the things that I like on the other slate. I'm just going to pull up my screen real quick and go through the 4 gamers. That sound good, Brandon? And then we'll
Yeah,
talk.
go right ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about sort of what I haven't, none of these exposures are anywhere near accurate. This is just literally off of just project. I haven't tweaked anything yet. I'm going to tweak a lot of things. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. I will be overweight on the 4 gamer, basically every aspect of this game. Partially, it buys me time. There's other plays along the way. But I really think one way to get difference on these 4 gamers and what helped me win it last year was a 3% owned Washington Commanders defense. So I will be heavy on the Bears defense. I think this projection's too low. I also think they're going to get more ownership than this is. It's just not updated quite right. So I'm going to be heavy on the Bears defense. I'm going to be heavy on. I actually prefer Monange a little bit over Swift when you factor in the ownership discount. So I'm going to play a little bit more Monange. Well, I'll probably play similar amounts of both of them, but I'll be more on Monange, versus the field than I will Swift. Swift, I might even end up a little bit below the field or with the field. And then it's a very tricky conversation with the receivers. The Adunze projection is too low. I think he's going to get more work than they're counting on. I also want to be overexposed to DJ Moore and to Luther Burden. And it doesn't take that much to do that. Look at all these guys' ownerships. I'm also not buying this Colston Loveland being. I know he's in a price tier of his own, but I think people are going to play more of him than you think. And he's the one I probably don't go over on, but I'll probably be pretty overweight this game, especially as things start. I like Devontae Adams as a pivot off of Puka, but I really don't know how you make an argument not to play Puka, even on the 4-gamer. It's really tough to talk about fading him. The guys who I'm going to get, again, overweight on, Tyler Higbee and Colby Parkinson. We see it can sort of be a hot hand thing for tight ends with the Rams, but both these two guys are super talented. The problem is Ferguson's back, and when we get into tomorrow's stuff, I'm probably going to end up playing Ferguson in Showdown quite a bit. But I really like getting to the Rams tight ends at super low ownership because we have a hard time guessing which one. Well, I'll just take my chances and be overweight both those guys. Probably near the field on Kyron, probably near maybe a little above the field on Stafford, right around the field. But this is a game that I'll be a little bit more heavy on than most. On the New England side, Ramondre is the one I think gets played some, so I am going to pivot and play Travion Henderson. I understand you're asking for a big play. Houston's a tough team. They'll give up a big play here and there, but usually it's through the air. Really like Travion Henderson as a contrarian play on the 4-gamer, and have no issue. I will be below the field probably on Diggs. I'll be below the field on May. I'll be below the field on. I'll be above the field on Butte. Probably right with the field on Demario Douglas, and then same thing with Austin Hooper. But I'll be fading the spend ups mostly from New England on the 4-gamer. On the not entirely fading, just I've got what I have 388 lineups, just mostly fading. We have to figure out what to do with Houston. I think that New England is what are they, the second worst or third worst defense left? That doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that there are other really good defenses left. This is a really good year for elite defenses. I would put the Houston, Seattle, and Denver all in that category. I like the idea, again, if I'm going to be underweight May, I'm fine with being near the field on a low-owned Stroud, even though he looked terrible most of the time last week. The fact that Christian Kirk is not getting more ownership on the 4-gamer is a little surprising. Jaden Higgins is going to have a tough matchup against Gonzalez. I think Hutchinson's a really good sneaky play. So I guess that would be my strongest take from here. I also think that taking a stab maybe on the 2-gamer more with Jalen Noel, or Noel as he's pronounced, that's probably a good way to get different. So with all that said, that's sort of where I stand on the 4-gamer for the second half of the day, and then we can jump in. And you want to talk Showdown first with Buffalo and Denver?
Yeah, we can. Like I said, I'm not playing Showdown for either of these two, but I can tell you who I'd like from each room if I was playing it.
Yeah, so you're not playing the Showdown, you're just playing the 2-gamer.
No, I'm just doing the 2-gamers during playoff football. I actually move away from the Showdowns and focus on the 2-gamers just because the contests are slightly bigger.
Yeah,
it's easier to just not be duplicated.
Sure. Well, I hear you. This is for what it's worth. I think it's worth just talking real quickly about the Showdown, just because people are playing it and whatnot. I'm playing it, not in a massive scale, but I have Harvey as my highest owned captain right now. I've got Shakir as my second highest owned captain, sort of avoiding a little bit more the quarterback captains. And then I'll probably have 1,000,000% of them in the flex. But I do like those two. And then I wanted to go out of my way to get I actually think I can go higher on this James Cook number. I think James Cook is being a little bit disrespected and overlooked based on last week. And then we don't have official word on Tyler Johnson, which is what we're waiting for. But I like, and maybe even in my biggest buy-in, just for vibe's sake, Ray Davis, the same day that I won the million. He wasn't on the millionaire lineup, but he was on it finished second in the Showdown for 75K. And I like the idea of getting to some Ray Davis if we don't have. I think he can get there, with a big play or a passing touchdown. He also has some kickoff return upside. You have a chance to run one back there. So I like the idea of getting to some of the Davis, some of the very low-owned Marvin Mims, who's been a Showdown highlight for me. These are not necessarily plays you want for the big slate. I'm just throwing out guys who I'm playing on this Showdown. And then you can sort of see where my ownerships lie elsewhere as far as Showdown goes. Now, I just wanted to do that quickly, and we will talk about the 2-gamer. And real quick before we bring you in, because I know you're probably just playing DraftKings, I'm going to talk about FanDuel for a second, because K9, who's one of our longest-standing members in the chat, asking about FanDuel, any FanDuel or all DraftKings. I'm gonna get into just real quickly. This is where my FanDuel ownership currently lies. I really like Tonjes and I really like Barner both. You can see Tonjes right now is my second highest owned player. I definitely want to make sure I'm over the way. I actually like on DraftKings, I prefer Charbonnet. It's pretty close on FanDuel, but I think getting to some, getting to more Walker certainly makes some sense because he has the bigger breakaway upside, and obviously a different scoring system on FanDuel. So this is sort of a rundown of where my ownerships lie on the two gamer. This is the one that I've got to figure out. Is I think maybe getting to more James Cook is a route that I would like to go. And that's just the FanDuel one. If there's any specific FanDuel questions, ask them. Now, Brandon, talking about this two gamer, the Saturday only slate on DraftKings.
Yeah, well, real quick, just because you were talking about the Bills game, I do like what the heck's his name? Pat Bryant as a wide receiver. I would probably be very much interested in having him in the flex position if I was playing quite a lot of showdown for that first game.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, so for
lined up in the slot, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and he's projected better than Franklin.
Yeah.
And Mims as well.
Which is kind of wild. And honestly, let's wait to see the final ownerships. But I would just say, if it goes too heavy, and I'm just going to take a quick look at where it is, just on the two gamer. Let's just take a look at Denver. Yeah, this is a little too heavy for me. So I know I'm going to change this right now. I'm going to make, well, let's see. Actually, I think I already have a minimum set on Franklin, but I think it's gone too far in the direction of not playing. Let's just at least do that for Franklin. And then I'm also going to go Mim. You're just talking about so much ownership going towards Bryant and none going to these other guys. And Franklin has been the guy more all year. Lately, it's been Bryant. But I'm sorry. I think that I just think that you got to get a little bit of exposure to those other guys. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Brendan.
No. I just wanted to mention that because it was one thing I was looking at as you were going through. So I just want to say for this two gamer, I'm not going to go overweight. Typically, if I'm just playing three quarterbacks, they're usually anywhere from 31 to 38% exposure. So I usually have a third of my lines on each of the quarterbacks today. And throughout the playoffs, I've been pretty fortunate in picking the quarterback that's performing the best outside of Bryce Young on, I think, the opening weekend. Anyway, I actually really like San Francisco from a tournament perspective, and if I could bet them to win this game here in Texas, I would. But I really, really like them from a DFS tournament perspective today, and I actually like them more since Kittle's injured, and we have such a question tag on Pearsall. There's rumors saying that he can't take any hits to his knee in this game. Obviously McCaffrey's going to be utilized, but I think just because we don't have Kittle as a secondary target and stuff, and obviously we have John Jennings, but I think San Francisco is a really, really good team to team stack because this seems like a situation to where Purdy has to spread the ball out to people who normally aren't involved in the passing game. And, Robinson's at 44, you have Jennings at 5,400, obviously Pearsall at 48. Regardless if he plays or not, I'd probably cap his exposure rate if I'm doing, what do I have, 200 lines, I'll probably cap his exposure rate, my stuff, between 11 and 18%. But still, the fact that you can stack San Francisco pretty easily and the field doesn't want to do that, obviously they're going against a pretty rough defense, the highest projected defense in Seattle, home of the 12th man, whatever. But the fact that you can stack San Francisco and then pretty much pay up for whoever else you want is probably going to be the main thing that I'm using to get different on this slate. With that said, I'm still probably going to have 34% Josh Allen and probably 32% Bo Nix, but I really, really like Purdy and San Francisco on this slate.
Absolutely. And to that point, one thing is you're gonna have some line. It's hard to get McCaffrey on the 4-gamer. It's hard to get McCaffrey, Smith and Jigba, and Nakua in. On the 2-gamer, the fact that everybody's going to play the McCaffrey, which is fine. Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to be a little bit underweight McCaffrey, but I love the idea of I mean, just talk about getting different on a 2-game slate. What about a San Francisco stack without McCaffrey? I don't think that's out of the question. And first of all, the Seattle team can literally shut you down other ways. Maybe the scoring. I mean, these are not going to be tremendously high scoring slates. I think San Francisco is going to have to throw the ball. Now that usually goes to McCaffrey. I'm just throwing out ideas here. But I like the idea of getting overweight basically everybody else on San Francisco. The Pearsall thing is a real concern, but I still think there's a chance he doesn't play. And I will likely switch some of my ownership, my current ownership to Demarcus Robinson. Obviously, I can late swap for that game, but I'd like to have those spaces available because if Pearsall doesn't play, like even this Kendrick Bourne thing, let me just do this. Kendrick Bourne becomes in play on a He's still in play, but he really becomes in play if we lose. And by the way, so does Juszczyk. We saw Juszczyk with some big plays. They're going to need to find creative ways to throw the ball, especially without Kittle and without Ayuk all year. And I don't know how they've done it, and I'm kind of leaning this San Francisco route myself. I think Seattle is the best team, not named the Rams in football. But if Darnold is really banged up and you have a coach as good as Shanahan and your team you're this familiar with and you're this big a dog and all this stuff, I could just see San Francisco coming out and pulling off some sort of upset here. I kind of like this idea that you threw out there.
Especially, since I think it's fourth down territory, like from the start, or like 4 down. Like I would be shocked to see them not be aggressive and try and
don't you think it might change a little bit with this Darnold oblique injury? That's the only thing. That's my only comeback.
I don't
be able to move the ball either.
I don't think it matters that much. Obviously, from DFS, like I wouldn't be playing Darnold, but from like a systematic standpoint, I don't think Seattle really changes their game plan.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think it's like a 1-for-1 replacement. Obviously, Darnold's like talented. I'm not saying that, but just due to like the talent on Seattle side with JSM and then Walker and I just went blank as I'm updating stuff. The other running back, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I just don't think Sam Darnold being out, which I think he plays, but I don't think him being limited or anything really changes how Seattle goes about it. I just think San Francisco has to score to keep up with this.
Yeah. And also one other play that I love is this, and especially on the 4-gamer, I think they're projected at like 3% ownership. I think it's going to go up. I don't buy this projection. I think it should be closer to 6. I actually think I'm going to probably make it 5.8, and I'm probably going to do the same with the Bills. I don't see this as being like, 5.8. I really would like to get to San Francisco's these lower owned defenses on the 2-gamer. You're not getting like this crazy discount in ownership, but on the 4-gamer, you really, really are. San Francisco is probably going to end up being my highest buy-in defense for the 4-gamer, just because the lack of the Darnold question marks, the fact that they're going to be lower owned, the fact that they're the cheapest, all of the things sort of line up for it to be a nice San Francisco. Could be the underdog defense. And I like, by the way, with that stack, Brandon, you would consider the San Francisco defense too, right? Like the whole stack and the defense. Why not?
Yeah. The last thing I want to say regarding how I'm been approaching these 2-gamers, just because everybody plays playoff football. The fact that on pretty much most of these slates, there's been a defense that's projected to have 40 to 45% ownership. I think, at least, this is how I play. I think it's worth just fading that defense and hoping, because that's the highest variance position on a slate like this. I would just fade that defense in every situation. Now, that just happens to be the Seahawks today, and I like the 49ers, so that's not that much of a like a struggle click for me. But the fact that Seahawks are 3,200. They're projected for like 45% ownership, or around there. The fact that you could remove them from your pool, and gain an extra 400, 600, whatever salary for your lineups and stuff, and getting different by just playing a different defense. I think that should be the first thing that most people do if you're playing a big tournament, is to click off the Seahawks defense, just because you're automatically getting different from half the field there.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I also think the Seahawks defense. I totally agree. As far as the 2 game goes, I'm gonna leave it because I already upgraded my other defenses and I put a minimum above there. So I'm gonna end up with less Seattle D, but I'm not quite with 210 lineups gonna fade them entirely. And K9's asking an interesting question. Are we worried about JSN's production with Darnold's injury? Absolutely. I don't. And by the way, there's a chance that it actually works out better for JSN. The only thing I would say about the 2 game slate is like, who else are you going to play? Like you've got McCaffrey and JSN. They're pretty easy to get in together. But who else are you going to play if you don't play JSN? That's sort of like my argument. And if he gets you 15, is that going to be enough? Probably. Not necessarily, but probably on this slate. And obviously, like he could make one play that literally your whole day is over if you don't have him. All right. So we talked about that. You like the San Francisco part of it. I like Josh Allen as a quarterback. I don't mind stacking up all my San Francisco weirdness with Josh Allen. I do think that he's going to Shakir more in these situations against good defenses, and I think that Shakir makes a lot of sense as a pairing. I would be overweight, and I don't have much overweight on him right now, but I'm overweight Keon. I'm actually thinking his number could be a little bit higher. Overweight Keon Coleman, sort of with the field on Brandon Cooks, but I actually think you could make a case for that one as well. And I'm underweight Dalton Kincaid, and I'll be overweight Dawson Knox. That's one thing I am going to do on the slate. Brandon, any thoughts about that before I just talk about the Denver side of things?
Yeah, for kind of the same thing I said with San Francisco applies to Buffalo. And actually, I like the secondary like targets from most. Obviously, I mentioned how much I like San Francisco, but like even for the Buffalo side, obviously I love Allen as the highest scorer here, but I really like Cooks and Coleman today, and I like Knox more than Kincaid, just from a build perspective. And an ownership discount, but I actually really like the secondary like targets for both of these teams.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, we just did get official word that Ty Johnson is officially inactive, which we expected. I will get crazy and play a little Ray Davis on this 2 gamer, but I'm also going to play him very heavily in Showdown. Just throwing that out there. And the other ones, let's see. I'm just looking at the wide receiver room because we lost Gabe Davis last week too. I don't know if people remember that. We have Shakir, Cooks, Coleman, Samuel, Hardman. That's it. That's all the guys they have. And Samuel has barely played in a while, but we've seen him occasionally have decent games with Hardman hasn't gotten on the field like at all. Yeah. Keon Coleman was a healthy scratch most of the season. Brandon Cooks came over 3 weeks ago. I think that taking stabs with each of these guys is probably the best way to play this. I'm just going to take a quick look real quickly at the projection on Curtis Samuel. No matter what, I'm going to end up with just getting – because, look, you get one of these guys in the early games. You see how beautiful it looks when you're late swapping. I think it's logical to be overweight these Bills receivers today. I think the receivers to be overweight on are the low-owned ones on this slate. I know it sounds obvious, but the Bills receivers, the San Francisco receivers, maybe be a little bit underweight the Seattle non-JSN receivers, and maybe be a little bit underweight, in my opinion, even though I do like this matchup for them. Maybe be a little bit underweight Sutton and Bryant for me personally, just because game theory. Receiver is a high variance position. We have no idea. Marvin Mims makes one big play early. Next thing you know, it's him on the field instead of Pat Bryant. I could totally see that happening. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, another thing I like about Allen, we saw him last week and he got rocked like twice, but because he basically has nobody to throw to, he's gonna be running more, and especially when they get down the goal line, I wouldn't be shocked if he siphons off a rushing touchdown from Cooks or whoever. But I think Allen, until he gets rocked again, it's probably going to be more aggressive in terms of running if he doesn't see anything out there.
Yeah, he was getting the shit kicked out of him last week. He still ran for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Very, very hard to argue against him. I also did want to throw out that you mentioned the San Francisco stack earlier. I'm going to have much more of Purdy than this. I think Purdy and Allen are going to be my main 2 quarterbacks, followed by, I just won't have very much Darnold. maybe from a game theory standpoint, you should probably get some Darnold, but I just personally like the other ones a little bit better. Any takes for you on other than I know you like Purdy. Who else are you looking at as far as quarterbacks go?
Yeah, it's probably going to be focused on Allen and Purdy for me. I might lower my Bo Nix stuff from like 30-ish to like 2015, but those are I just like Allen and Purdy a lot today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've seen. By the way, this Seattle defense is awesome. I've gotten to see it all year long. I've been beating the drum about it. Just the whole team is good. They execute well. They're well coached. They come from the McVay tree, so no surprise I like them so much. But I will say that Purdy in the playoffs has been awesome. His whole career, he's been tremendous as a playoff quarterback. And yes, they're missing all these pieces. Yes, all this and this. Still got McCaffrey out there to help him, and I think he can make a couple of big time plays, which may be what this slate comes down to. Because if you told me right now that Buffalo wins this game like 16-13, I wouldn't be surprised. And you could tell me the next game doesn't score. There's a real chance that nobody scores 20 points today. That's on the table, 100%. Just throwing it out there.
The thing that I like the most, and it's probably why I don't enjoy the slates that go over multiple days, just because that kind of drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, regardless of how this first game goes, the fact that obviously McCaffrey's going to be owned, but these receivers from San Francisco are not going to grab it, or not going to hold really any ownership at all. That means every play that they make is much more significantly important from a DFS perspective than anything Seattle does. Because like everybody's going to have JSM, regardless if Darnold runs or not, or plays or not. But every play on San Francisco is much more valuable from a build perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Let me see this real quick. I'll leave it.
And that doesn't happen this often when we get down to this time of year.
Yeah.
Where you have a team that is just not going to be owned because there's so much questionable stuff around it. I think you should just absolutely embrace that and lean into it as much as you can.
Well said. I did want to throw out one other play. I forgot that I'll be underweight, probably Cooper Kupp, and I think I'm going to be overweight Rashid Shaheed today. Double upside for him. If you're playing with Shaheed, especially in showdown, pairing him with the Seattle defense in showdown makes a ton of sense because Shaheed, as we know, can certainly run back some punts. And we've seen him do it very recently, multiple times. So wanted to throw that out there in case you get that double six that's so elusive would be awesome. Brandon, you're getting some questions here in chat. I wanted to get to them real quick. So, Brandon, if you're playing 20 max, Brandon, who would be your top two QBs? I think we kind of answered it, but go ahead. I wanted to X out the other two. That's what
I assume you're playing the 4 or the 3. I mean, those are pretty big contests and stuff, but unless they filled. But I would have Allen as my highest owned. If you're running 2 guys, I think you could very easily split it with 50% Allen and 50% Purdy.
Yeah.
If you're running 3, I'd probably do 50 Allen, 5 Bo Nix, and then 5 Purdy. Like I said, I just don't really have any interest in the Seattle side for everything I've stated here, but that's what I would do there.
Fair. And my question, my answer to the same question, not that it was asked to me, but would be if you're playing 20 that's a 20 max, that's a very different thing than playing 20 in a tournament that's 150 max. And if it's 150 max, I would say go like 60% Purdy, 40% Allen. If it's 20 out of 20 max, I would say like 75% Allen, 25% Purdy would be the way I would treat it.
Oh my gosh, League of Legends finally paid out. I'm sorry. I've been waiting for that to enter all these stupid NFL contests.
Something exciting?
Yeah, I mean, I won 1,400 again. I mean, on most, I don't mean to say it like that, but most of these.
Oh, say it.
Yeah, Call of Duty and League have been very good for me. But yeah, I won 1,400 on this slate this morning, so I've literally just been waiting for that to pay out so I can enter all these stupid NFL contests.
Yeah. Oh, Russell Henley killing me in my golf. All right, 20, 150 max. So I would lean more towards taking. Wouldn't you agree, Brandon? If you're playing 20 in a 150, wouldn't you want to take a little bit more of a stand, maybe than just splitting them? Well, actually, you know what? 50% Purdy is a lot.
Yeah,
in lineups with Purdy, that's a good amount.
Yeah, typically the bigger the contest is, or rather, the bigger the entries that your opponents have, you probably want to be more aggressive with your less entries. Obviously that's one, like if you want to make money, go play cash, but that's not fun, right? But if you want to try and take advantage of the field, like this seems like one that I'd at least want to have half my lineups. If I had 20 to do anything I wanted to, I'd probably want half with Purdy just to try and get different from the field. As stated, when we enter the second game, regardless of what happens with McCaffrey, JSN, and everything, the fact that you pretty much have, I would argue, like 2-1 or 3-1 ownership leaning towards the Seattle players versus the San Francisco guys. I mean, this just seems like a place to where, even if it doesn't work out, the plus EV play is to just lean into San Francisco because less DFS players are going to have exposures to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And another question for you, Brandon: Would you up the correlation on Saber or limit stack types in order to focus on game stacks? You sort of mentioned you're doing it, but you didn't mention. I guess he's talking about specifically how to do it.
Let me see. Let me read this question. I don't.
From Gabriel.
Do you have correlation on Saber or limit stack types? So, let me figure out how to answer this. I've kind of gone over this in the other videos that I did. It's different. Like if you're playing 2 to 3 quarterbacks, on a 2-game slate, like if you let me change it. If I'm focusing on Allen and Purdy today, let's just say I X out Sam Darnold and Bo Nix, the stack exposure, like area of that kind of goes out the window because your pool only has 2 quarterbacks to work with. Ideally, on a 2-game slate, I want like QB 3, 2 or like 3 with the QB, and then 2 bring back, 4 with the QB, 2 bring back, 1 bring back. I don't really want anything less than that, but you're naturally getting to that anyway when you just have 2 quarterbacks. Like you're gonna have QB plus 2, bring back 2, QB plus 3, bring back 1, whatever. I'm probably focusing on just having QB plus 3 and QB plus 4 lineups today. I don't really focus on the stack or like the game stack at all, just because I'm focusing more on making sure my quarterback stacks are or at least lined up with how I want them.
That makes a lot of sense. I personally, for the 4-gamer, I genuinely think you could play Josh Allen and no receiver, and including tight end, and I think you'd be fine. But for 2-gamer, it's a little different story. It's hard not to argue for one of the guys getting there. It's a really narrow thing you're trying to thread with only so many players to play on these slates. All right, so Brandon, I don't have a whole bunch else to go through. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to try to be here for a show. I'm definitely going to be editing my lineups, but I just last year we did a Saturday show. We didn't do a Sunday show. I'm considering doing the same thing again, just if I've got a nice start like I did last time, because I want to do all the things that bring that $1 million back home.
Was it this week last year, or was it last
one? Yeah,
this one. Okay, well,
it was actually and some of the same teams. It was just we just had Buffalo and Baltimore, and we had the Rams and Eagles. We had Detroit and Washington, and then the other one was, who the hell was the other one? I'm having trouble remembering what the other one was. It must have been. It was KC and Houston. I think it was Houston. All right, Brandon. I'm going to get out of here, I think, pretty soon. Anything else you want to leave with the people with before we leave?
No, I can't think of anything else. I'm not going to be able to do a video or anything tomorrow. I should have everything set up in the new place by next week for the, I don't even know what it's called, conference division championship, whatever. I guess it's division weekend, championship weekend, whatever it's called. I'll be there for that next week. But I'm actually I might not be playing much tomorrow, so I'm going to be playing very heavily today, for what it's worth.
Okay. Well, knock it out of the park today, and then it'll force you to maybe want to play tomorrow. We'll see.
Yeah, or San Francisco lays an egg, and I just throw my computer out the window, and just quit everything.
No way to play tomorrow. Yeah. Brandon, are you posting on SK? Is being asked by Dylan and by Bobby.
Oh, so as stated, I was waiting for League of Legends to pay out, so I will update that. I already had, for what it's worth, I might end up maxing the 15. I already had like 90 lineups in that one, and now I can probably just end up maxing in it. So that'll be up shortly. Let me get that set up, and that'll be on Stake Kings. Probably at probably like a 1.18 or something, because I got to compete with all these guys that have a 1.25.
Yeah, there's guys out there putting up like 1.46 for DFS. Get out of here.
You know, I've been giving people a pretty good return. I've been like pushing 1.3s and stuff. So I've learned that I like to do that when there isn't other base slates going on.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
but it's been working. Like you know, this league that just happened here. You know, I put that up last night at like, you know, 1.25, and I made people money on that. So
absolutely. All right, buddy. Well, it's always great to talk to you. I would say great to see you, but I can't see you. Hope things go well with the rest of the move. Keep me posted. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully some screenshots later in the Discord, and hopefully big enough ones that we can even put them on Twitter. How about that?
Yeah, good luck, guys, and let's get it. Let's do it.